Hello, welcome to the Content Magazine podcast. I'm Daniel Garcia, the cultivator of Content Magazine, published by SV Creates. And today, this is kind of an interesting year in review that I'm going to do with our director, producer, David E. Valdespino Jr. Let's first, what is your title?
So I think in the paperwork it says I'm production manager. In the magazine it sometimes says producer.
Okay.
We've talked about developer as like a cool fun name like you get to have with Cultivator, but yeah, production manager. Yeah.
Do you want to do developer? Let's just do it. Just
to it.
Okay, so when we proof it, make sure that it gets changed.
The
to
developer.
That. The developer. Okay, so we'll take it from the bottom. Hello, welcome to the Content Magazine podcast. This is Daniel Garcia. I'm the cultivator of Content Magazine, published by SV Creates, and I'm here today in our sofa studio with David E. Valdespino Jr., the
developer.
See, I already forgot. So I just kind of like wanted to take some time and just do like a year in review. This is almost a year since you came on staff.
Yeah, I started January 3rd, 2023. So
January 3rd, yeah. So it'll be coming up on a year. And so far, we've done fairly well. We haven't had any big blowouts of us relationship-y, but we're in the honeymoon stage still.
Okay, yeah.
It's probably next year.
That's pretty good, a year of honeymoon stage.
Yeah. So next year, it'll probably be the time where we're like, I hate that guy. Can you please show up?
I mean, it's pretty good. I always tell people the things that you're really worried about or worried about in general, like I'm usually not concerned with, and then the things that I'm worried about, you could care less. So
yeah. What am I worried about?
I don't know. Some more like kind of numbers things or like, editing things. Sometimes like more logistical things.
Okay.
Where I'm kind of happy to roll my sleeves up and kind of dissect and figure those things out.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm worried about like actually doing them or just like starting, and then you're like just,
You're like, what's the process? You're very much like want to know the process, and I'm like.
So sometimes people ask for the process, and I feel like you kind of get a little like, oh, so
there
much.
There is no process. There is no process. You do it. You build the road as you drive. So, that's fun. That's some inside baseball for us. Thank you for 1 year so far. Awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
No,
it's been a good
great.
time. So let's do a year in review. And, of course, you came on right on time for the pickup party that we did at Open San Jose, which Create TV, Chopsticks Alley, where all those cats are at, in issue 15.2. Now, 15.2, you weren't a part of. You wrote an article, at least one, right?
I wrote 2 articles in 15.2, and those were due in December of 2022. So I turned those in and then came on as developer in January.
Okay. So you weren't a part of the editing process or putting together the magazine. You actually came on and it was like, okay, David, we have a pickup party next week. Here's the phone numbers. Let's do it.
Pretty much, yeah. Build the car while you're driving it there.
Yeah.
So
what I remember, I kept on telling you, this is an easy one.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the constant theme. Is every pickup party is the easiest one yet. So I think that's a good example of what I'm worried about.
Yeah. And it actually was easy, in the sense that we had a venue, which Open San Jose and Create TV, which was incredible, and there was a lot of built-in things. But it was difficult because of the sound and the room and having to do all that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean I think I've realized over this year of doing pickup parties is. A lot of times the venues are a blank canvas, which is beautiful, right? Like they give us a lot of opportunity to kind of showcase the artists and showcase what we do very openly. So we've been really lucky with that. But at the same time, you show up and you're like, wow, this is like a blank canvas. Shout out to Open San Jose. They were really invested in having a good event and product. They had their grand opening after the pickup party, right? So they were screwing TVs into walls for us and getting projectors set up for us. That pickup party has a special place in my heart because everybody really rallied around old newbie here and getting me set up. So
and the team was great there. I mean, if you're going to do a party or something,
Chad, Atu,
incredible. So that issue we had. You have to help me. Roué with Paige and Jax, that's right. Jax on the cover, which is fun. And Naogi Harris shot this, so I thought it was fun because it's kind of they're such an indie band, and the shoot that he did was so kind of indie-ish looking. So really loved it. And then they were like one of those kind of groups that I had my eye on. I actually met Paige when she played for A.B. Tober, who was kind of played at one of our little side events that we did and was featured in the magazine. And she was on guitar, and I was like, who is this Joan Jett young gal? So I was super excited to have her in the magazine. What about this particular issue for you kind of stands out? And we're not doing a video, but you can hear me flip through the pages here.
Yeah.
What about this issue was kind of like, what are your highlights? I know it's hard to say, and we'll just say this up front, and you probably feel the same way. I'm going to say this for every issue, that, you know, it's definitely like we love everybody that are featured, right? I mean, it's so hard to like say, oh, I like this one the best. Every opportunity we have to feature somebody is like so cool. So we're not really picking favorites, like having kids, right? You love them both for who they are differently.
Yeah.
So this issue is very much like that. But for you, what kind of stands out for you?
Yeah.
And this is issue 15.2, the spring issue for 2023, Sight and Sound.
Yeah. And to kind of piggyback on what you said, it's interesting because, you know, I don't have favorites in particular so far as who we featured, but a lot of times there are moments that kind of strike you in different phases of the process, right? I very specifically remember proofing this on the couch in the break room. I think they were setting up for a show that night.
Oh, cool.
And I was like trying to be cool magazine guy, flipping through like, oh yeah, just doing my proofing or whatever. But there were like some specific articles that really kind of stuck out at that time. You know, this one featured Manos with Jimmy Castaneda down in Gilroy, and kind of learning about that kind of, you know, very specific local history to Gilroy that I wasn't familiar with previously, right? So, you know, the beautiful mural that they've been working to kind of refinish and refurbish. So that was really interesting to me. You know, obviously K Cafe in the magazine, just the visuals and the pictures, you really feel like you're there. And then also really interesting, like the bleed on the layout in that one too, like the venue for K Cafe kind of like bleeds over the edge, you know, like the floral pattern is so like you feel like you could smell it, like you could be there.
It's
right?
just a masterful layout, basically.
You know? Yeah, no, but I mean, that's one thing I kind of wrote down when we were talking about this is like the layout process. I don't know if people are familiar with how content works with layouts, right? But you've had graphic designers in the past that have helped out. Yeah. You know, you kind of learned
on the fly,
trial by fire, right? So what kind of goes into your kind of layout process on something like this? Like with
that's cool. Yeah, let's do with K Cafe and Kayla. I mean, like she's just so awesome. I know she's like a social media influencer. She's always at like fashion shows traveling the world.
Yep.
And their style, right, is definitely like over the top, kind of like that. I don't even know what this French, Vietnamese bistro. So I mean, it's so strong visuals, all the flowers and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, I even like you know, like so she's in this picture where she's standing in the door. And I put like the little border around it because they all have the K Cafe kind of has that border around their logo, and her and her brothers even have tattoos that have the K in this thing. So I wanted to put the border on there, and then, you know, used a font that I thought was kind of frilly, you know, that would kind of mix with it. And then of course just wanted to have lots of big visuals because it's so, you know, like normally even like the sub or the headings, I normally don't change the font, but so these ones have headings that are, I don't know what font that is, but yeah, I just kind of changed it because it pops out the headings. And so that, you know, there is some kind of thought in it a little bit, I guess.
Well, this one was interesting too because the article was kind of split. Yeah, Joanna wrote this one, and it's kind of split into two sections, right? Like, what are the titles?
The early days.
Yeah.
The shop's early days and today's little patch of paradise.
Yeah, and so and I feel like one of the other things that I've noticed going through these issues and articles, it really is a product of so many people that come together that aren't always connected, right? Like you have a writer that goes out and meets with these people, and then you have the photographer that goes out. Those both come to you and us, and then you're working on the layouts. And
a lot of times the photographer goes out not even with the story being done yet.
Totally.
So there's no real. And I don't want to give. I don't really give. Sometimes I give a direction on the story because there's something we want to focus on. But the majority of the time, I want I like one. My whole kind of thing is probably because one, I'm not a super planner, and I love spontaneity, but I also want the different creative disciplines to be able to flex. Right, so let the writer flex their muscles, let the photographer flex theirs, right?
Yep.
And then see what that kind of comes together. So then I kind of think, because I'm such a fly by the seat of my pants guy, then it's my job to take those elements and see what the common theme is and then make it work out, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting to see how, sometimes they overlap so nicely, and we'll get to the most recent issue, but I think of like Miguel Machuca in 16.1, reading that article and then seeing the photos that Stan came out with, and they just matched each other so well.
Yeah.
Whereas like, Kayla and K Cafe, like obviously the visuals are going to be so brilliant and stunning and, cute and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then the article kind of went into like some of the harder times that were required to kind of get to where they were. So,
with COVID and all that kind of stuff.
People breaking in to the business. Yeah. So
cool. Yeah, that was kind of fun. So that's 15.2. We didn't go. I mean, we were going to do kind of like the whole year, so we don't have a lot of stuff. But there's just great story. I mean, for me, actually, I'll just can I just tell you two of my things, even though I could probably cut you off and I'm talking more than. Definitely the Green family I thought was kind of fun just to do the feature on them.
Clarice and James and Jafar. They're so amazing.
Yeah, just because they're such sweet people and they're doing great stuff, and see a family coming together to do work to kind of like, I don't know, it was really cool. And I don't even know how I found them. I saw them like tangentially on is that the way you say it?
Tangentially?
Yeah. Off of something, and I was like, this is so fascinating. So that was fun. Very honored to be able to feature them. But then for this issue, when we did the photo walk, I really wanted, I've been wanting to do stuff that's a little outside of like our normal kind of box, of design. So I wanted to do like an old school pasting type of thing. So we actually, cut these photos out, and then my son helped me out. We didn't type it out, but we printed out, we cut open the things, we pasted it down, and then we did photos of the spread. So it was kind of fun just to do something that has, kind of like a zine paste up
DIY
kind of look. So that was fun. I mean, it was fun for me. It was fun that my son was like doing the graphic design on it, and he basically just did exactly what I told him to do. No, he like brought his own kind of like design to it. So that was fun.
Well, and then I don't know if we're letting
go ahead.
The genie completely out of the bottle here, but that kind of as an example of like that was all analog hardware type stuff. You were taking photos of those layouts down on the table, and then the proofing and editing process that went into there, right? Because there was like one letter that was like incorrect, and so you remember that vividly. But like trying to get in there and fix those things also. So
I had to Photoshop a couple things because there was some. And we just didn't catch it, which always happens. I mean, even to let the genie out of the bottle on this current issue. Ben Henderson, thank you very much for doing the cover. But the name of the issue is Discover, and then he had put Discovery, which, no big deal. And fortunately, with the AI-generated Photoshop, I could take that thing out real quick, take the Y out. And nobody would have cared, but it was fun.
Minor details, you know. It's not a perfect science, what we're doing here, but we try as hard as we can. So.
Is there anything else? It's such a great issue. If you haven't seen, what is this one, 15.2 from 2023, the spring of 2023, but a year ago, right, was about, a little less than a year, come February-ish. Check it out. Of course, it's completely sold out. All the magazines sell out because it's in such high demand. David. Yes. Everybody wants their hands on this.
Of course.
But you could check it out online.
Issue on our website, issue.com on our website.
But probably better to become a member, and then you're going to get it delivered to your house.
Yep.
And then you can be able to come to the pickle party and get a free drink and probably a food or something, right?
Totally.
That's probably the better way to do it. Okay. So, let's put 15.2 to bed. Love all you guys. Hope everybody's doing well a year later. Okay. Now we go to 15.3.
Yes.
With David on the cover, with his little homage tattoo to the Alchemist.
Maktub.
Yeah. So what's your thoughts on this issue? I'll let you just dive into it, and I'll sit back and have some coffee, some Nirvana Soul from across the street.
Of course, yeah. No, 15.3 was fun because that was my first production start to finish, right? So, like, I was there when you were
Assigning.
Had 8 pans on the stove, assigning and simultaneously finishing the previous issue and looking forward to the next one. So
Cutting stories like, oh, we can't feature them. Feature them.
Well, yeah. I mean, the one thing I don't think people know is just how long the list is. I remember, my partner Alyssa Ray, who also writes for the magazine. She talked to you about production of the magazine, and she said, or this is how she describes it. Aren't you like close to running out of folks in the South Bay that we can feature? And yeah, that deep sigh is pretty much the response. So
actually, then to even zoom forward a little bit on that thought, if you go to issue 15-4, like Paul Gonzalez, who was in this issue, Paul J. Gonzalez, who is the incredible murals, who we finally featured in 2023. He's been on my list since we started the magazine, right? And so finally I got to him. Sorry, Paul. But anyway, so let's get back to. So that list is long. Yeah,
and so this one was interesting. This is our partnership that we have with West Valley Silker School of Art and Design. We have historically, I think the last 3 years, and even before that, you guys were doing photo shoots with their fashion department and all kinds of stuff. So long relationship. But we do our pickup party over at the Silker School of Art and Design.
Which is an easy one for you to put together.
The easiest, the easiest until the next one, but this one also featured our content emerging artists. So we had David Morales, we had Kiana Aguila Labra, we had Dan Fenstermacher, and those are the issues or articles that I got to write for this one. Some of them more challenging because they were so short and concise, because it was kind of like a 3-pack of features. But really cool to see David on the cover also, and
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, thanks for doing that. It is, and I don't think people know that. Like sometimes writing a more condensed article is more difficult than writing a longer one, right?
Yeah,
and that's always a challenge for the writers.
And that one in particular, I remember. When you finish your article, you kind of hope that you can just turn it in, and then you never have to see it again.
Until it's in print.
Until it's in print in spirit, right? But this was the first one where I actually had editors reach back out to me, and they were like, "Yeah, you need to rewrite this paragraph because I don't even know what you were trying to do there." But it was particularly on Dan Fenstermacher's article. The first paragraph was kind of exploratory and a little bit kind of, ambient in nature, but a lot of times I really try to capture the essence of somebody's art.
Yeah.
And when it's art, it can be hard to describe, right? Like that's why curators and museums and gallerists and everything get paid the big bucks, because like it's hard to tell that story, right? So I was really working to try to capture what it's like when Dan's out on the street shooting, and then the wild and inspiring and crazy photos that he comes up with at the end. So
with such humor in them too, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how he does it. I mean, of course, being a photographer and having played around doing street stuff, I cannot do that. I mean, even I'm looking at this one here with the horses and the chicken.
The Richmond Cowboys. Yeah,
on page 58 of issue 15.3, and then the mini golf one, the Jesus with the what do you call that guy? Toy soldier, the American flag. I mean, like. He just captures such great stuff. And even the one in the thing here where it's the guy with his legs up in the air framing the butthole of a dog. I mean, like, those moments, like, with the flag in the air at this particular... And this dog, is that a dog jumping on? No, it's another guy over there. But, it's kind of
and so
crazy.
In that first paragraph, I'm kind of really trying to capture how much his head is on a swivel when he's out there. And kind of just like following that inspiration, right? Like one little flash of light might draw him down the block around the corner to, follow what was going on. So but just kind of that process there.
And I've said this before of him, and hopefully there'll be debate in the comments. I guess, do people comment? I don't know, but I think he's probably one of the best street photographers from the South Bay. Like I really do like what he's doing, and there's a lot of street photographers doing a lot of stuff, but. What he's capturing is like really super cool. So if you're a street photographer and you think you are doing better, send me an email and show me your work. Maybe we could feature you. Maybe you'd even win the Emerging Artist Award, which was what was it? How much was it? Was it $10,000?
It's $5,000 in unrestricted funding, right?
Yeah.
So, David said he bought a new computer setup for his music production and some of the content creation. Kiana enrolled in a master's program.
Right.
Dan's always forever planning trips out of the country to go do some full kind of photo projects. So
that's cool.
But so that's 15.3. I spent a lot of time on those, so that's kind of front of mind. But looking at kind of this list I have over here, so 15.2, you took photos because you are a photographer for content also, in case folks didn't know. You did 2 features. In 15.3, it looks like you had almost 10. You took photos of
if I could, I would shoot everybody because I want to meet them and I love doing it. But there's 2 things: time, and then I feel super selfish.
Yeah.
But I'm always jealous when someone else does a shoot, and I'm like, oh man, I totally wanted to shoot them. Like Carlos Perez. Carlos Perez, right? He's another guy that's been on my list forever. Incredible artist that's been in San Jose forever. Like, I want to hang out with him and do stuff. But Arabella, of course, did a great job. But I mean, if I could, I would shoot everything.
Yeah.
But I have to share the love, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I mean, luckily we have so many great freelance photographers and writers that are, seemingly always willing to jump in and do these articles and interview and write these profiles. So
I did do a lot, didn't I, in this one? I
Yeah.
didn't realize that. I wonder what happened. Well, because we did we had the school. So quite honestly, some of it is too is just it's easier in some ways when I do it because I mean, like I can shoot it at 10 o'clock in the morning and I can drop it in the layout by 11:30.
Yeah.
Right. So that is another kind of aspect of it. And then I'm a megalomaniac. Is that it? Like, I would have loved to shoot Seth, right?
Yeah.
From, what's the name? I forget the name of the tattoo place. What's it called? Grace?
State of Grace.
State of Grace. Yeah, from State of Grace. I would love to have shot. He's a super cool guy too. Yeah, I mean, I do think that I do a pretty good job. I was actually kind of funny. I'm going to go with, I'll be kind of like a self-promoting dude. Leslie's super cool too. But this picture of Dan, actually, that's the thing is I shoot it. I pick out, it takes me like 3 seconds to pick, okay, we're going to use this one. I drop it in, and then I'm off to the next thing. That's a pretty dang good shot. Right? Don't you think so? What do you think?
Yeah.
Am I biased?
I think it's a good shot, and I think it's interesting because, when I talked to Dan for the interview, because he was actually had like a 1-page profile in a previous issue.
Yeah.
And he was, what did he say?
He says, Daniel's such an over-directing
Well, he said he wanted, I think in the previous one, he said that you made him look really serious or angry. And he wanted to like look a little bit more, approachable.
Yeah.
Or fun-loving.
Yeah.
But you kind of have a saying with your photos, right? Is like no smiles.
Well, that's not so much no smiles. The whole thing is, is that I want them to look. My job as a photographer, I think, is to have someone look at the photo and then go, who is this person? I want to read about it. Because quite honestly, you're a words guy. No one's going to jump right to the word. They're going to look at the title, the name, see what they're going to do, and look at the photo. And if it seems interesting, they're going to jump in. So the photographer's role is not, and this is going to blow everybody up, is not to capture the essence of that person because you can't, and that's bull, and the reader brings in so much more. The job of the photographer, like the graphic artist, is to get people to read the article so they get to know the person. That's the real job. So
yeah, and then from the writing perspective, it's almost kind of a 3-pronged approach there, right? Like you grab them with the photo.
Yeah.
A lot of times, I really focus on that first paragraph as that hook.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. And within that hook, I find with a lot of art writing, sometimes it can be fairly isolating to like go straight into the person's practice.
Yeah.
Because I kind of have the saying that, most people that walk into an art gallery feel like they're probably not the smartest person in the room,
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So trying to find ways that you can access the humanity in these folks and relate to them on that level, and then kind of take them to the art. So going back to like even Cefa's article written by
let's see here. We can flip to
Gregory Dodge.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
and shot by Sani, I think, right?
I think so.
Oh, this is the one, Sani. Sorry, the layout popped over because it's this double spread.
Yeah.
And so then the image popped over the top of the credits. Sorry, guys. You know, it happens.
Yeah. Going
so,
back to the writing there,
yeah.
I think that and it's Ethan, Gregory Dodge. I don't know why that was slipping away from Ethan. But the way that he kind of took that first paragraph and centered Cefa's background with kind of his first interactions with tattoos. I think it was his grandfather or his uncle, and kind of seeing his, traditional tribal tattoos under his kind of like traditional clothing and like being just enthralled and really interested and kind of feeling like a little guilty or like it was like a bad thing to be so interested in it, kind of just set the stage for like the whole process of becoming that kind of tattoo artist. So I think that it kind of is that three-pronged approach of like really grab people with the photo and draw them in with that first paragraph.
Yeah, and that's cool, and I really appreciate it. And at the end of the day, right, our goal with the magazine is, so I'm just happened to flip to Mitra, who's an incredible artist and professor at West Valley. At the end of the day, we want people to be a fan of her and her work, even more than the magazine, right?
Oh yeah.
We're not successful if you just become a member of the magazine for $42 a year and on our website. But if you see Mitra's and you see that she's doing a show and you want to go to it and you want to be a part of that, I mean that's kind of like the end goal, that to help the artists grow in the art community.
Yeah, and even for folks that may or may not be interested or invested in art, right? But like, yes, being interested in those artists and the amazing work that they're doing, but also being able to kind of see yourself within that art space and kind of like just feel connected to these people and the things that they're doing. Because it's not, artists aren't people that are struck by divine inspiration and wake up every morning and, they're touched by something. You know what I mean? Like they wake up and put their pants on the same way that you do. And a lot of it is hard work and determination. And so
that's funny. Even talking about the non-smile thing, Ruben from Mr. Fuchila, because he's such a smiley, happy person. And so then when I remember when I was doing that, I was having him not smile, and he was kind of like, oh. But we got him in the video smiling. But I think that's a cool shot.
Yeah.
I think it's funny. I had to have him stand up on his table in order to get the Mr. Fuchila sign behind. So anyway, well, anything else then about this? We did a pick-up party. This was with the fashion show at West Valley, which was incredible. That's always a good time. Anything else that you want to just kind of say? This was a thicker one too. Yeah.
It was. There were quite a few. One of the longest lists for the year, but just an amazing issue. Great pickup party at West Valley with the fashion show. Shout out to Shaka Brewing, who was featured in this issue. That supplied drinks for the night.
Incredible.
Good Time Bar came through and donated some wine for the event. And then Petiscos also
incredible,
came out and brought some food. So
it was good.
So it was a great event. It was a good time.
And then Brad, look at that picture of Brad, right? Trying to make him look like Mad Men. It's difficult sometimes when you have to do like the kind of business guy.
Yeah.
The dean, what is it? Oh, the chancellor, right? I thought that was a fun little shot.
I mean, so fitting that with his coffee mug that has the guitar on it, and then he goes and shuts down the show and plays with his band. So.
I think that's things too, is like trying to, with doing photography, and this might be is like you want to show the person's work, but you don't have to be overly stated. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And that's kind of the thing. Sometimes it's too straightforward. Mm-hmm. But this is a good issue. Yeah.
Yeah, Forever Records.
Yeah, right. With Troy writing that article and even telling me about them. I didn't know I hadn't heard them before. That was kind of cool.
And now I can't help but seeing Forever Records and Vanessa Vindel and Alden, Brevin. I see them everywhere now on Instagram. Like I have friends from the East Bay. I grew up in Union City, and just happenstance, they're like playing a show with Vanessa Vindel or whatever. So interesting too. There is kind of that also with the magazine, is like once you see these folks, then you can't stop seeing them around town or in social media. And Another one, last thing here is, we had Irvin Wilson, who feels like we kind of go way back with now. He performed at our 15.4 pickup party at SJMA.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But was featured in 15.3. Yeah. And one, I think, perfect example of the crossover that happens, too, between artists that are featured in content, right? Like, because then they come to the next pickup party or they meet each other here or there and they kind of recognize each other. You were talking about Kayla Din from K Cafe, her tattoo that she has on her forearm. So there was one picture that she posted on Instagram of her tattoo, and then the first pinned comment or whatever top comment at the top was Irvin Wilson.
Oh, yeah?
in the comment, and it just said, hard. Like, that's hard.
Right.
And, getting your brand tattooed on you, real recognized real on that one. So
it was cool, yeah. And Polaroid J did the photos, which was cool, like in some kind of diner type stuff. They look pretty cool. It's fun. Man, it's fun. It's actually, it's kind of cool. And I think every, artist or whatever you need to, like, and especially I think even for you too, like coming into, like you do it, you're so much into it, you begin to kind of hate it, right? Because it's like, oh my gosh, it just represents so much work. When it sits there for a year and then you come back to it, it's almost like you have more appreciation, Yeah. And this was a good issue. I really like this issue. With Leslie's, I've been wanting to feature Leslie for a long time with her crazy paintings of the.
I also vividly remember with this issue. Yeah, this was the first one where you kind of printed out page by page in our little printer. You had it running diesel or whatever, printing out this 120 pages or whatever, and we were laying them out. Oh, yeah. And you kind of look down and you're like, I don't know about this issue. So it's cool to hear you come back and, Well,
that's the thing, too, like the flow. Like, what is the flow of the magazine? And try to visually make it tell us, have like an album, putting together an album, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like I always try to put kind of like the cultural piece up front. So that would put, if you look through the magazines, maybe people don't see it, like the cultural kind of thing goes up front. So the Silker School was a big kind of thing, So it was kind of like, this is kind of a rough start. But
and that was also the first time that I realized and recognized. I'm of a little bit of a younger generation, but that was the first time I found out that you flip through magazines backwards.
Oh yeah, that's right. We had that whole conversation.
We had that whole conversation,
and then we did a little usability test with Alyssa Erickson.
We had A/B sampling and everything going on, but I had never thought about flipping from the back cover to the front. But
I've always flipped from the back through. I think it's kind of like to see like if I really care.
Yeah,
right? You flip it, you go through, look at it. Because maybe what it is because I grew up with fashion magazines, and the first 100 pages is just ads. Actually, those ads are pretty cool though for fashion magazines.
Yeah.
But so I flip through and see if I want it, and then if I land on the cover, I'm like, okay. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of interesting.
Well, we're calling out to the listeners, so yeah.
Yeah, put it in the comments.
Put us in the comments. Hit our mailbag or whatever, and let us know which way.
Look at the comment button on the bottom left, and hit that, and then don't forget to hit the subscribe button up to the right. And if you hear the ding, isn't that what they do on YouTube?
Yeah,
all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So out of character.
Yeah, right. That's me, and I'll do my TikTok dance in a second. Okay, so that's 15.3. Dang man, looking back at 2023, 15.1, 15 which was the one we released at New Moo. That was an incredible issue too. And then with David, so Rau Rouet on the cover, David, and then now we go to Already. Dang, it goes by so much faster flipping through them here on the table than it did putting them together.
Yeah, well, and then I even went through my little year in review on LinkedIn, and my first thought is how has it already been a year? So.
Right, exactly. But great work. It's been a great work. And then 15.4. I feel like this was just yesterday, but this was a while ago, and this was the pickup party at San Jose Museum of Art.
Yep.
Of course, this issue is sold out too. Dang, man, I feel so bad for people who aren't members.
I know. I know. No, I mean, you could get them mailed to you, but they've been going a lot quicker, and we've been, Yeah.
Oh, speaking of the Museum of Art, where we did the pickup party, right? We had the curator, and that's the stories.
Curators.
And this is cool. Yeah, this is kind of fun. Yeah, and so let's just get the layout before we get to the words. It's more important.
Yeah.
So I had the idea. I just wanted the curators kind of big across the top, and then this was kind of fun because I'm not really that good of a graphic artist and stuff like that, and so my son did the the cutout to get their heads over the top.
Nice.
Because I'm like, how the frig do you do? I think I did it, and I was like, dude, can you help me? And so I emailed him stuff because he was at Sac State. He made it work for me, and we did it back. But then, but the inside with all the black, I like this layout.
Yeah.
And just to shout out the font that's were used in this, for the title page where it says curators on page 27. This is for all you, or 21, all you font geeks. This was actually Kevin Peth, if that's how you pronounce his last name.
Uh-huh.
Samantha, his wife, also edits for the magazine, and they just had a baby. Congratulations. But so, like, I used fonts that he said, hey, because I've been talking to him about trying to do, like, some new stuff. And so this is kind of a new font treatment that we're kind of, like, implementing. So I kind of went, like, all crazy on, like, let's use these fonts. But I don't know. I'm kind of proud of these individual shots. I've been wanting to do this whole kind of layered team shots. And so, like, you know, if you look at Nitty's, like, thing with, you know, and you could see Juan Omar's nose here and stuff like that. So it was kind of like my own fun little thing, and I thought this layout was kind of fun. I don't know. So again, in the comments, if you think it looks lame, let me know. But yeah, so you wrote that article?
Yeah, so I wrote about the curators. You know, full disclaimer, I think I got some of their titles incorrect in the issue. To be fair, I think they went over some role changes over the last time, but just
I blame the internet.
Call myself out. Yeah, don't trust your first, second, or third source. Keep on digging.
It's so hard. And you know, the titles are probably going to probably change. And then in 50 years, when they dig this up from the landfill, nobody's going to know.
Yeah, you know. But no, so fun to talk to all the curators. There's 3 of them. You know, Lauren, Juan Omar, and then Nitty. They all have very similar but very different kind of roles and then perspectives. You know, Juan Omar and Nitty both have backgrounds in, like, neuroscience, and then ended up into the art field.
Yeah.
So yeah, just learning a lot about their background and then the approach to San Jose Museum of Art, which I think a lot of people from the outside, and rightfully so, you know, it's a long-standing institution, but they kind of have that white wall museum, super sterile, you know, perspective. But talking to the curators, you know, the people that are actually putting on the shows, and, like, what they're trying to get out of it, and, you know, the kind of change making that they're trying to pursue through the artists and the art that they're curating, it's really interesting. So definitely suggest checking it out. Issue.com, kind of the real story with the curators, and then you know, have a different kind of perspective when you walk through a museum, hopefully.
Yeah, I think it's always, you know, museum and museumologists and all that kind of stuff say, like, you know, this is a space for the people and for the community, but you know, the reality is it doesn't always feel like that because it's so polished, so clean.
Yeah.
But it really is. And I know you go into a museum and you want to be all quiet, you know, it's echoey in there and so, but you know, that's not the intention of the museum. They want it to be an interactive place, and San Jose, you know, is definitely that way, and they really want that. Sarah, you know, who's the director, I guess, the Osterman director or something like that. You know, I think it's a place for us to go to, and so yeah, it's kind of to humanize the behind the scenes, the curators. You
know, the chief curator Lauren Shell Dickens also, you know, being adamant kind of in the interview, like, it's not really about me, you know, it's about the art. It's about, you know, how people are engaging with the art. But yeah, trying to capture that humanity for someone that is so, you know, interested in not being necessarily the center of the story, but kind of producing these experiences for folks was kind of a fun challenge. And, you know, all of that being said, you know, the white walls and the sterile nature, it does take me to Together We Create, who had their giant box mural sculpture that they brought in for that pickup awesome. Party.
That was so
into
cool.
the lobby, and then
that was cool.
And then doing the little touch-ups on the paint in there. All the facility staff was gritting their teeth a little bit, but yeah, the intersection of you know, the different styles of art kind of all meeting in one place, I think is also really fun.
That was awesome. That was so cool to have that tri-walled display that they put up in the middle of the gallery. I was thinking, I wish they could keep that all all year round. But yeah, thank you guys for doing that. And then Paul Gonzalez, who blew out his space, right, was incredible. And then Yosimar doing his performance there was incredible. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, this is kind of another one of those issues. Well, there's a lot of kind of crazy, like, Michael Messenger, who's in the front, right?
Yeah.
He's been, because he did Blanco Space, Oya Kitchen, Farmers Union, right? So
San Pedro
Social,
mm-hmm.
like, so he's been a lot of like. So he's been on the list to feature forever. Kept on pushing him. Finally got him in, and that was the thing too. So here's a guy who's like a, upper class man who owns businesses and how do you do it in a kind of a way that's kind of fun? So I try to treat it like, kind of like a fashion magazine, like try to just kind of like Tom Cruise-y kind of thing. I think like what can I do to make him, not look so stuffy. So I don't know if they like it. I mean, I put the text right across his face, and he's got the sunglasses on. So they probably hated it and were upset. But for me, it's kind of fun. And then this one's kind of blurry, out of focus with the smile.
Well, and it's interesting, and that's part of it, right? Like as an arts magazine and an arts community and arts infrastructure, you know what I mean? Like there's so many different layers and people that are involved in the art that's being created, whether it's like the venues where people can play music or, the people that are developing these things or the actual artists that are creating, the paint on canvas, right? So,
and it would easily be someone like him who's a property owner and developer, kind of have him be a villain. Do you know? And I think that there are reasons historically to make property owners villains. But at the same time, if you think about it, with having, 3-4 restaurants in town that are successful, that are employing people and being venues for people to create and do the work is, it's part of the ecosystem. And I do think sometimes maybe that content, because I have that perspective, we're probably not seen and being radical enough. But without somebody like Michael Messenger taking a place like Farmers Union, it was a vacant front. I forget what was there before. It was like, I forget what restaurant was there before, but it was vacant for multiple years, right? And then for him to turn around and now have it a place where people are actually going to and making it live and vibrant, San Pedro Social, and they having like that back area where they have music and stuff like that. So it's part of the ecosystem of the trickle down. Maybe not trickle down is the right word. Maybe not trickle down, but the whole ecosystem of like, if everything raises up, then you can kind of bring everything up. And then I love it too. So this is my own personal thing. So you have Michael Messenger. And then, boom, you go right to Abraham Ortega, who's like super cool.
Black suit tattoo.
OT, OG, like tattoo artist, right? So me, that's like fun. And my personal, like subconscious statement that I'm saying is that like all these factors are important to a strong community. You can't be just for this. You can't be just for that. Like you've got to see it's a whole ecosystem of kind of people. Yeah.
And Abraham's piece is actually really interesting too, just talking about Chicano tattoo and artwork and that history of like, public perspective and society's view on Chicano artwork and like the full circle kind of nature of, now he has people coming in that, aren't Chicano or, aren't of that background that are asking for those pieces. Whereas before people were getting profiled like very blatantly for having that kind of artwork on their body. Right. So, interesting stories.
Yeah, I remember when I was growing up, tattoos were definitely the rebel thing.
Yeah.
Now it's so mainstream. I'm trying to think, what can you do other than a tattoo that would be more rebel? What's rebel?
I mean, there are people pushing the boundaries.
There are people.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, again, we love these all people. Pantea is in this issue.
Yeah.
I was so glad that she would let me have her kind of be blurry in the front, do that kind of stuff. And then the lining.
Yeah.
I forgot about that, which I'll just let the dirty story out. Like I wanted to do it like where you see like these old books and they have the gold leaf edge and all that kind of stuff. So I wanted to do that, but as I talked to the printer, they were really concerned that it would, because of the thickness of the paper, it was going to chip off and it was going to be kind of a mess. So, I don't know if it would have been interesting. It could have been a real mess. So I had to just kind of play it safe and not do that, but
still features Pantea's beautiful kind of blended ink work on the inside.
Yeah, this on
cover.
page 32, like just like this. Yeah, that's a beautiful piece that she calls Saffron Rocus. crocus. Yeah. So yeah, and she let me wrap her in this carpet that her dad gave to her and stuff. I was, it was kind of cool. And then James
Murky.
Yeah, I mean, he was I've been seeing his work around, and I really kind of like this style. I mean, I'm kind of drawn to this type of kind of graphic realism in some ways. And so I was super honored to feature him. I think this is the first time he's ever really been in a magazine or interviewed and stuff. So
and one of the things
to give him opportunity
with James's artwork also, right? Like beautiful art, and then to find out that he's coming from an engineering background, and then kind of viewing it through like the life experiences of James also, like, I don't know, it kind of gave it like a different little tilt, like the way that he views these things, and then, interprets them on canvas also. But I will also say James was in attendance at the pickup party and displayed and had a table. He had like the cleanest, like most concise vendor setup that I've ever seen. He had like the little wooden box and everything.
He's been working the scene too. Like
he has.
When I think I first saw him, he was just kind of like doing it. And I feel like even this last year, it's kind of one of those serendipitous timing things where I had seen him, I wanted to put him in issues, and I kept on kicking his name down. And then we did this, but I feel like, I don't know if the magazine being interviewed kind of gave him a little more extra gumption to be out more, or it just kind of like felt that he was already pushing himself. So it was kind of fun to kind of do that, and then just kind of talking about some of those kind of things. Then we do have to talk about Needle to the Groove's album picks, right? Which is incredible. And this becomes my Spotify playlist. But coming up in this next issue, which is called 16.2, that should be coming out February 22nd. We're kind of, right? Did we get any emails back? At a cool venue.
Cool venue, February 22nd.
But this was the first time in this issue, which is, what is this? This is 15.4 for Needle to the Groove's kind of incredible selection of album picks that I found out about Chow Mein, which, to my, I don't know what, chagrin or I don't know, embarrassment, because he's kind of a local guy.
Yeah.
And so I hadn't, I mean, I don't, all the stuff that's going on in the world, but so then listening to this and then seeing like he's even got a song called San Ho, I forget what it's called. Mentions like being on Capitol Avenue, you know what I mean? So it was kind of fun. And so I saw that, I was like, what? Who is this dude? What is it? And I checked it out. And then he ended up having a show at the Ritz with, I think, Kung Fu Vampire back in the day. So then, so we're going to feature them coming up in the next issue too. So
I mean, Needle to the Groove album picks is just such a great way to see. It's not local. It's not necessarily local. It's not what you would always expect from an album picks. It's not the most recent releases that are in Rolling Stone. It really captures like the essence of like what music lovers are listening to, and sometimes that stuff is off the wall, right? Like I remember in 15.3.
I wonder if you can say the same thing I was gonna say. Go ahead.
There was, such a wide range, but there was Homeboy Sandman and Timely, 12 Days of Christmas, and Dia de los Reyes.
Yeah. And
just like a complete abstract hip-hop Christmas album. But really great. That album review is written by Damone Carter. Life After Hip Hop on Instagram.
And then also they have a podcast, him and Nate LeBlanc and Dave Ma, and it's the
Dad Bod Rap Pod. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's good. It's so eclectic, which I totally love. For me, it was like this Natalie LaFaurescade.
Who just played in San Jose. She
really?
Had at the not at the Hammer, but at the San Jose Theater.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I totally missed that. But like the sound, and even the way that she's recorded me with you can hear like the guitar string, and it's got like this weird kind of I don't know if it's like done overlay, like a dirtiness to it, but like the romantic Latino Hispanic. I love that album. It's like that's kind of like more my vibe.
And did you found her through the album picks?
Yeah,
and then like dug into the whole album and everything.
Yeah, I would never have found this. I mean, like, I don't even know how people do. I know people talk about like they love Spotify and how it tells them new music and stuff like that. I do it, and it just like keeps recycling the same old crap. I'm like, what? And somehow, I mean, I love actually Mountain Joy. Right, that's a group, right? And they have I like their song, but every time I put on like hey, this is your digital DJ. I got some new pick. Here's a song that you haven't been listening to in a while. And it's like, what? You played this for me yesterday. Like,
Didn't you say, like, oddly, your 2023 recap was, like, 85% Pink Floyd also?
Yeah, that was weird. But that makes sense, though, because when I work on, because I get into phases. You know that. Like, I get into phases, and I was in this Pink Floyd, just like letting that play while I was doing like the layouts and stuff like that, which is super dreamy. Yeah, and then comes out on the Spotify. Yeah, but anyway, all right.
If you want to shake it up, Needle to the Groove album picks.
I know, right? Everybody.
They weren't in the most previous 16.1, but we actually have like a really cool collab in 16.2 that we're working on with Needle to the Groove. So definitely subscribe and get ahead of it, because I don't know if those magazines will last very long. So
yeah, you need to be a subscriber to get
the benefits of that partnership. Yeah. It's going to be super sweet.
And you got to order that soon, actually. We got to send out those emails. Oh, wait, there's a Christmas, New Year's break. Okay, we're behind the gun. Okay, that was 15 for, well, we didn't even talk about Weezmatic.
Oh, cover.
Dang.
Cover feature. Yeah, Weezmatic, Aaron Aquino. That photo just like jumped out immediately out of the stack of photos. You kind of like tapped me on my shoulder. I rolled my chair around, and you're like, "Look at this!" And I was like, "Oh yeah,
that's Leo. Leo does a great job.
So good."
Yeah, he's been on. Leo has had maybe 2 or 3-ish covers. Arabella, I think, has had like a couple. It's not like I'm like stingy, like only my work can be on the cover, but it has to be, I think, something that's good. And this was really fun, and it fits the story perfectly with his daughters dancing in the background. The colors worked out right, just because it's got the orange, which is the complementary to the blue, but then also because it's in the shadow, they get the blue light. Yeah,
and just totally captures Weezmatic, who played at SJMA for the pickup party. Whole family was in attendance, cheering him on. He did like a hefty set of like original beat making on the spot. I dove deep into his album. That's another fun thing when I'm proofing these albums or proofing these issues. Like, I find myself in so many rabbit holes, like, Weezmatic or like Ben Henderson in 16.1. Like, I'm digging through YouTube and their Spotify, like getting a taste of like what the sound and the companion to it. So,
gotta talk about the layout. What do you think of
the layout? Yeah, this was the one with the sideways text, which from a proofing standpoint was a little bit distracting, but
from a reading point. Yeah, well, this is just me. Like, this thing. I'm very much a minimalist. Yeah. Right. But I just wanted to do something else. And then you want to hear a dirty, weird little secret? So on the opening page, with his name and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I was trying to give the motion of like a turntable spinning and stuff like that. So it's a little bit. But then like the back weird grungy look is my house was being painted, and then they put the plastic over the windows. And so then the plastic, and then it had a little bit of paint on it. So I saw that design. I was like, oh, this is super cool. What could I ever use this for? And then I was doing this, and I was like, oh, I'll bring out that pattern and superimpose it over the top.
I cannot unsee it now. Now that you said that, I can't unsee it. But it does give such a good kind of depth of motion and I think you told me at one point too, like, with the twisted text and kind of like the blurred images, it kind of captures the kind of beat chopping and remixing and, screwing of these beats that Weezmatic's doing, based on so much, history and influence of hip hop and production and everything else.
I have to say, I look at this opening page and I feel the music.
Yeah.
By looking at it. So good job to the graphic design team. Anything else in this issue we want to talk about? I mean, there's so much we could talk about. We got to move on. We got to keep the train moving. 2023 is almost over, and we got to finish this. And now we're actually into 16.1, which is winter 2023, which I hate winter because it's split between 2 years. Isn't that weird? It starts in December, but it ends in March.
Thus the 0.1, yeah.
Thus the 0.1, which kind of drives me crazy. But I don't think anybody else in the comments area, if that kind of drives you crazy too, I kind of want to change it.
Have you noticed the numbers? I feel like we see the numbers. Like, that's like our whole life in the folders and everything. But I'm curious if anybody notices the numbers.
We should probably change it to letters. start working the alphabet backwards and say like this is issue Z, issue Y,
You
issue
would like
X.
that too.
That would be fun, just to mix it up. But okay, 16.1 Winter 2023, which is on the shelves now, which is actually sold. I think we have like 5 issues left to sell.
Yeah. Well, and just so people understand too, you know, like in the office here, we have like a pretty decent archive of previous issues. We tried to keep like 10 to 15. The last few issues, like starting with 15.3 with David on the cover, like we have 2 in the archive. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, get your subscription and get those ordered, because I have had some people reaching out about like some previous way back issues, and we really don't have that much back stock. So
the goal was like, I don't know why actually. I mean, I guess it was Connie, the retired now CEO of SV Create, said like, you know, let's keep 10 in the back, so we can pull from them, but it's good to have a backlog. I don't know, but like, you know, there's some issues like the one with Juan Carlos from Empire 7 that we did way back in 2012. I think it was the second issue. That one is like, I think there's only 1 copy. I think I have 1 copy left of that one. And then a crazy thing is that then the whole layout and file of that got corrupted.
Oof.
The whole drive that had that issue on it. And I had backups, but it wasn't a complete thing. So yeah, stuff can be lost for all eternity.
And that's why we love print and physical copy. Yeah. Because data can betray you.
Yeah, totally. Okay, let's get to this one here with Ben Henderson cover. Why don't you start? Tell us what's your thoughts on it? This was actually a pickup party at the State Street Market in Los Angeles, which was the easiest pickup party to put together.
The easiest one yet until the next one, yes. But this one was really fun. It really felt like, you know, kind of like a broadening scope of like, you know, region and area, you know, having the pickup party in Los Altos, which is the furthest, you know, we've done it from, you know, home base in San Jose, other than Los Gatos. You know, we do Saratoga with West Valley. But then also like the features and the folks that we had in there as well. You know, Ben Henderson on the cover art, super unique. And yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. The articles that I wrote were on Maddie McBurney and Karen Zucker from Arts Los Altos. So, you know, just even the field trips that we took down to Los Altos to like do a site walk of State Street Market, meeting Shannon Geary and Robert Hindeman, who run the place. And then kind of doing the little mural walk, right? Like we saw Royanne Victor's work in downtown Los Altos, and, you know, all kind of a product of what Arts Los Altos is doing.
Totally. I mean, they're doing a great job of like bringing art to Los Altos. And it's just, you know, Maddie's and Karen and their vision just to, you know, like support artists and bring art into their community, which is super cool.
Yeah. And then my other was Pamela Walsh. So that's why it felt like really regional to me, right? Because Pamela Walsh Gallery's in Palo Alto, Ramona Street, and then Arts Los Altos. And so those are probably like the furthest articles that I'd written. Well, I had one in Hollister with Cerarium. And
Cerarium rocks.
But yeah, super fun sitting down with Pamela Walsh for that article. That one was actually interesting because usually I'll go out and do the interview, and I've cut down my interview time so much over the last 2 years of freelancing. I think I sat down with Cerarium for 3 hours, and that,
which is fun to do.
Transcription process was wild and crazy. Yeah. So for this one with Pamela Walsh, you and I actually went down to the gallery in Palo Alto, and I hosted the podcast with her.
Which was just released this last week?
Released last week. I think it's episode 107 in our podcast list. And then I had to use that podcast transcription to write the article. So
easy.
I had... I was hesitating a little bit because, you know, folks can kind of get a little bit more guarded in like the podcast setting, because otherwise when I'm recording interviews, I tell people specifically, this recording is specifically for me. It's not being published anywhere. It's not going anywhere. and then it's on me to kind of pull out the tidbits. But yeah, then, people could do a side-by-side on my article and then the podcast. And
yeah, I would love to actually get all the past recorded interviews from all the writers and all that kind of stuff, and then like put them all out. I mean, we've 12 years. Is that how many years?
Yeah.
And that's 65 magazines with an average of 13 people in each issue.
Yeah.
That's a lot of cool local people.
Yeah.
In that. Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, this one here I really loved. I mean, Alex Nobody did a great job shooting Soulmates. And the spread is really kind of fun with taking inspiration from his photos and stuff like that. And then also Arabella with Curtis from Exilo, right? That was kind of fun, and with the clothes flying around, and it was fun. It was like a fun kind of clean layout. She did a great job. She always does a great job. And this is the one, of course, where Stan did Miguel Machuca, actually, with a C, not a G, huh? I always do that. But yeah, it was fun. And then just kind of I tried to do the juxtaposition again. So you have Pamela Walsh, kind of a very much a high end gallery in Palo Alto, and then boom, you go right to Nacho, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mayo, who is down in Gilroy and kind of doing, much more kind of Latino-based art. So
workshops, he teaches classes and all that kind of stuff. Very community oriented.
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to show that kind of juxtaposition again, right? So yeah, I mean that's the thing is trying to bring in those different kind of textures. People.
One article that I really enjoyed was Nadine Rambow from Epicenter in East Palo Alto. Yeah. I used to commute through East Palo Alto going to downtown Palo Alto for a bike shop job that I had. And just seeing that community and seeing that difference over the bridge there of just different populations. And then seeing what Epicenter's doing and the impact or input that the children had kind of in owning that building and developing that building. And, Nadine is a powerhouse,
totally.
All kinds of different organizations where she's worked and directed, and super cool. I'd love to go down and check out that space. It was, to be honest, it was hard for me to kind of imagine where that building was.
Oh, yeah.
So again, one of my rabbit holes, I was on Google Maps, street view, zooming in, finding the building, but it's in such a beautiful location down by the bay.
Dang, you
right
go
there.
deep. You're a curious person, man. Yeah, it was great to have Michelle. Michelle has been writing for us such a long time now, and I totally appreciate her doing this story. And then Miguel Ozuna, this was probably his third-ish shoot with us and stuff like that. That was good. But
so a question for you. What kind of goes into assigning these articles, with different photographers and different writers? Is there any kind of curation on this writer might be interested in this, or this photographer might be interested in this? I
mean, there's multiple things. I mean, I try to do stuff where I think people would want to connect, right? So I try to do that. Some people like to do music. Some people like to do other stuff. And then I try to think what's the artist's kind of or the photographer's artist and interest and their skills. And sometimes, it's hard. It's easy to shoot young, hip artists, musicians.
They grew up on Instagram. And
almost can't get a bad shot because they already got such a cool style and all that kind of stuff. It's more difficult, this is, I'm probably making me an ageist and all kinds of stuff. But, when someone's older and in a job of running a company and an organization, it's difficult. So I try to send that to photographers I think that have the experience to be able to kind of do something, or who don't have the experience, and I'm going to try to stretch them. So that's kind of what I do with it. But that's kind of what's going on. And then at the same time, though, is I wanted to shoot this. I wanted to shoot, everybody. I want to meet these people and shoot them,
totally.
But I can't.
I mean, shameless plug for the pickup parties. I feel I wish that I had your drive and ability to like write every article in the magazine, that honestly gives me
crazy.
a panic attack thinking about it.
Totally, that would be crazy. Writing is way more difficult than photographing.
I mean, the years of experience and everything else, but yeah, I mean, being able to go to the pickup parties. I mean, along with proofing and reviewing all these things, I feel like I know them. Yeah. And sometimes I catch people off guard because I'll be like working check-in, or I'll be like running around with my hair on fire like I usually do. And then I'll like see somebody and I'll like run up to them like I know them. And sometimes they look super startled. Well,
that just happened to me at Amy Madsen Gallery.
Yeah.
At her opening, and Angela, I don't know how to pronounce her last name.
Johal. Yeah.
Johal was there, right? And so I only met her at the pickup party. We were trying to help set up her work and her husband too. Mm-hmm. And so I walked in, I saw her husband. I'm like, why does he look so familiar? And then Amy said, oh yeah, Angela's here. And and I'm like, what? And so I went up to her, I'm like, hey, how you doing? And then she looked at me and she like didn't recognize me, right? Because, I was like, I think when I was setting up, I was probably like in my skivvies or something like that. And then there I was at the gallery in a, not a suit, but
tuxedo,
I had shaved and showered.
That'll
right?
do it.
Yeah. So she didn't really recognize me at first. So it was so odd because I'm not used to that. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, I guess she doesn't really recognize who I am, which is good. But at the same time, it's like, oh man, like I love these people because I had the same, like reading the story, seeing their photos, spending time with them, and I pick the people.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm already a fan of them to even get in the magazine, and then. That was kind of like an interesting experience. And then I thought, oh, this is kind of fun. How could I actually have complete anonymity? How do you say that word?
Anonymity, yeah.
Yeah, if I could have that, right? But I couldn't handle that. I'm too much of a...
Well, talk about even, in this last issue, 16.1, we had Will Sprott in there also.
Yeah, incredible
released
artist.
his own, solo album. I think it's his second, through Needle to the Groove. So Needle to the Groove, kind of produced it, published it.
Yeah.
But that was kind of like a star moment for me. I was like,
totally.
Oh, Will. I feel like he and I go way back even pre-content because I was listening to his music. He works with Shannon and the Clams also. He's kind of East Bay icon of a punk band. So
I know kind of get a what's that word when he goes fandom, or you get a fan, what's it called?
Fan out. Yeah.
Fan out. And like so honored that he would even come out and play, right?
Yeah, and he's living in Grass Valley now, and so he made a big trek with his child Oz to come out, and
super honored and thankful that he did that.
Super, yeah.
And the band was great. He was great, and then Ben Henderson playing with
Wax
Moon. That was, oh man, it sounded so good.
I know.
It sounded so good. That was such a good night. And then Soulmates.
We're just holding it down all
man,
night.
Yeah.
All
I
night.
was like talking to people, and I was like, I don't want to talk to you. I want to dance. That was so nice. Yeah, what a great.
Just the greatest people, and like the
sweet
willingness and like eagerness for folks to like take part in these events has honestly probably been one of the biggest things for me in my first year of producing these events.
Yeah. Next year we're going to try to get a bunch of jerks.
Those will be the easiest ones. But just an honor to be able to work with these folks, and
Yeah, it was cool. Mike's so sweet. Even like I'm setting up the content sign. He's like, oh, do you want me to help you? I mean, like, just so sweet. You know? Awesome. That's great. Yeah, and what they do, even what they do for women DJs and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Charlene. Cool. Charlie Beats doing the clinics and classes for women DJs, and they're so great. I mean, they were awesome to hang out with. So
well, that's 2023.
Yeah.
Goodbye 2023, and just wonderful features. If you haven't read them, check them out. Even look on our website. We release the articles kind of in a slow drip. But definitely follow these people. Go on their Instagrams, go on their SoundClouds, go on their TikToks, and like actually we don't promote the TikToks in this, but we don't promote the Twitter. Yeah, so that we got to wrap it up. This is the hour in. So what's your last thoughts, David?
I'll just say along with that, if you've been reading content, if you've subscribed to content, content's been around for 12 years at this point. Longest running arts magazine in the South Bay.
In the history
of the South Bay. And, I guess kind of in honor of that also, we just got our website redone.
Yeah.
Super
Bonfire.
scrollable, super, easy to load and go through. Shout out to Bonfire for helping us out with that. But it is a true historical catalog of artists and creatives in the South Bay. I'm meeting and learning and being introduced to new people just scrolling through the folks that we featured on our blog there. So definitely check that out.
It's just a fraction of the people, right?
Totally.
Podcasts. Of course, you already know about podcasts because you're listening to this.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Well, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And we'll see you in 2024 for some great stuff, which is the 13th year? 2000? Well, what's 2000?
Oh, we went through this whole thing last time.
Yeah, so we won't go into it. So thank you very much for listening, supporting, and your membership is so important because it helps us pay writers, photographers, produce the magazine, and continue to tell the stories of the local creatives, so we appreciate that. So for Daniel, talk to you later.
Right on. Thank y'all so much. It's been a pleasure working with y'all.